So I'm looking at these playoff rankings, and I'm thinking that Indiana needs to win and win big against Purdue.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. This episode brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Does Ohio State have any problem with Michigan? Does Oregon have any problem with Washington? Well, we're going to pick those in every other Big Ten game this week and every game in the Big 12 because I think Arizona State's going to the Big 12 championship game. From preseason last to maybe, possibly first, but who are they going to play? That's the question that we'll get answered this weekend and later on today's show. But I want to start with Indiana. So Indiana falls 5 spots. They fall 5 spots for losing by 23 points, which is really 16 points. And then Ryan Day, you make whatever you like of that late touchdown he scored against Indiana. But record matters and all that stuff. And you know what? I understand why he did it. Oregon did the same thing late against Michigan. I completely understand. So Ohio State hosts Indiana, and the Hoosiers are the second best team on the field. Everybody understands that. We all watched the game and saw, okay, Indiana's not as good as Ohio State in that particular day. Did you know that they fell the same number of spots as Alabama, who went on the road against a bad Oklahoma team, and they lost by 21. So Indiana loses by 2 more points on the road against a significantly better team, and they fall the same number of spots in the rankings as a team that loses to an Oklahoma squad that was fighting to make a bowl game at the end of this year. So Indiana is currently ranked 10th. They're going to beat Purdue, but they need to beat Purdue in the same way they were beating everyone pre-Michigan. So they only beat Michigan by 5. They lose to Ohio State. Those are the last 2 impressions that the committee has of Indiana. Like it or not, the College Football Playoff Committee over the years has valued far more what happens at the end of the season than the start of the season. And you can make the argument for that. You can say, well, the end of the season, a team is far more defined than what we saw early in the year. Early season results still need to matter, though, or else what in the heck are we doing here? Or else South Carolina should be a lock to the playoff because they look like one of the hottest teams in college football, but I think they're losing to Clemson later this week. But that's neither here nor there. So Indiana has back-to-back kind of negative data points that they've given the committee. And if they want to ensure, not that they want to get into the playoff, because Indiana wins, they'll be into the playoff. No problem, right? I mean, the committee certainly wouldn't. They wouldn't take a 10-2 Clemson in the ACC, which is not as good of a league as the Big Ten, right? Everybody agrees with that. They wouldn't take them after beating an 8-3 and top 15 ranked South Carolina team. They wouldn't take them and put them over Indiana, would they? Would they? I don't know. I don't have full faith and confidence that if Indiana were to, say, only win by 14 points against a really bad Purdue team, this is the worst team in all of Power 4. They're going to end the season 1-11 and without a win against an FBS team. Purdue is just straight up bad. Ryan Walters might be looking for a new job after this year. Depends on how big his buyout's going to be. But the buyout for Curt Cignetti is really, really big for anyone that would want to poach him because Indiana locked up their guy. And they know that he's their guy. And it's a great situation for the Bloomington-based Hoosiers to be in because Indiana is, in all likelihood, getting into the playoff here. But Curt Cignetti's off a loss for the first time. For the first time this year, Indiana loses a football game, and now we have to wonder, well, how are they going to play afterwards? They're favored by 29.5 points. 29.5 points against Purdue in this spot. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to cover. I think you are going to see a Hoosiers team that wants to prove to 2 separate entities what they are truly capable of in this game. They want to show the best that Indiana can be. First and foremost, they want to prove to themselves. They want to remind themselves, hey, remember early in the season when Indiana was just going around and blasting everyone into oblivion, like FIU 31-7, UCLA 42-13, Charlotte 52-14, Western Illinois 77-3. Remember when they were doing that? That's what Indiana, I think, wants to get back to give themselves confidence going into the college football playoff. But secondly, I think they want to remind the committee and give themselves at least a chance to host a first-round playoff game. I think they should be given that opportunity with how they have played this year, because you compare their resume to Ohio State or Michigan's from last year with a non-con. Now, Ohio State had Notre Dame, so Michigan is the better one-to-one comparison there. Michigan had a horrible strength of schedule. They rolled everyone. They played Ohio State. Now they won. But if Michigan last year had lost to Ohio State, they wouldn't have gone to the Big Ten championship game. They would not have gone to the playoff or won or all those sorts of things. They wouldn't have had that sort of season. But where would they have been ranked? Where do you think they would have been ranked? You think they would have been outside the top 7? I certainly don't. You think that one-loss Michigan that's rolled everyone but only lost to Ohio State would be behind a 9-2 Georgia? Heck, do you think they'd be behind a 10-1 Miami? Miami's skated by a bunch of different teams this year who aren't very good, like Cal and Virginia Tech. I mean, they lost to a Georgia Tech. So the quality of Indiana's loss should be viewed favorably, but I think Indiana needs to give them a positive, recent data point to say, hey, we're still Indiana, still a really good team, and you should give us a look. What if Georgia were to get upset by Georgia Tech or lose in the SEC championship game? Well, that would allow Indiana to climb. What if Miami loses either of their next couple of games? That's possible. What if Tennessee loses to Vanderbilt? I talked about that on yesterday's show. That upset is entirely real, entirely possible. I think the Vols are going to win, but I think Vanderbilt's going to hang around and keep it close. So all these moving factors, Notre Dame could lose to USC, that could allow Indiana to have that urgency in the back of their minds of, hey, if we win this game by enough and remind people that Indiana's offense is explosive and that we're better than what we played against Ohio State in that particular game, we just weren't ready for it on that singular day, then maybe we get a home playoff game instead of a road playoff game. Food for thought. As for the game itself, Indiana is favored by over 4 touchdowns. Guess what? It's not a big enough number. There's the motivation that I was just discussing, which I think is very real. Then there's the actual on-field performance. And yeah, Indiana to going from Ohio State to Purdue, that's like going from a Michelin star restaurant to a poorly run McDonald's. Like, these two things are not in the same category. They're technically both restaurants, but these are not the same thing. So Purdue has given up 40 or more points in 5 of 11 games this year. Make it 6. I've got the Hoosiers winning. I've got the Hoosiers dominating a rivalry game. Curt Cignetti took the mic at the Indiana pregame or preseason rally at a basketball game and said, no, not preseason. It was last year at a basketball game. And he said, all these teams suck. You know who the fans are going to respond most strongly to? Purdue. They want to win this football game. They want to win it big. 49-7. Indiana steamrolls Purdue. No upset potential whatsoever. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @SMcLaughlinCFB or at @LockedOn_CFB are the handles. How's the Big Ten playing out? Can USC pull that big upset? Well, they could, but I'll tell you why I don't think they will. Coming up next. Right after we talk about Game Time. Game Time has this feature called Game Time Picks, which makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You get straight to the meat of it, straight to the heart of the matter, whatever that is. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you're looking for. Game Time's got it, and you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect. You know how many things you're guessing about or wondering when you buy tickets to a sporting event? Take that out with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Not tomorrow, today. Because what time is it? It's game time. Notre Dame, USC, I had this pegged as an upset before the year. I thought this would be the only regular season game Notre Dame loses all year. Instead, This is going to be a game Notre Dame wins and makes my preseason record prediction on Notre Dame be exactly spot on. I had them 11-1 before the year. They win this game, they are 11-1. Riley Leonard and Mike Denbrock have figured it out. They are doing enough, and the defense of Notre Dame is why I don't see USC pulling an upset. They are going to be an incredibly trendy, incredibly popular pick because USC plays a bunch of close games, and they finally won a close game last week. Hooray! That was against UCLA. And UCLA, slightly better than I thought, but not going to a bowl game. So in many ways, what I expected. And they're not a great football team. They're better, they've improved, but they're not on the same level as Notre Dame. So the last time USC played a team on Notre Dame's level was Penn State. That was many weeks ago. Miller Moss was still the starting quarterback. And the quarterback change has taken place because this USC offense isn't very good. And one of the most overlooked aspects of USC's struggles offensively this year, which are far more myriad than the defensive woes, which frankly have been situational but not system-wide, USC's offensive line is not good. It is not good. And I watch that Notre Dame front. They can control games. They've got playmakers on the back end. I will not be surprised if there are at least 2 turnovers in this football game forced by the Notre Dame defense. They're favored by 6.5, according to our friends at FanDuel. Yeah, I'm taking Notre Dame to win. I'm taking Notre Dame to cover 31-20, and I don't know if USC is going to score that many points in this game. Ohio State or Oregon, who's got more problems? Who's on a bigger upset alert? These are 20-point home favorites in a rivalry game. Both have lost 3 in a row to their most heated rival. Both teams have national championship aspirations. There are just a shocking number of similarities between these two programs and these two football teams. I don't think either one is going to come close to losing the football game. I also don't think either one's going to cover. There's a rivalry factor here that needs to be considered. When you get a bunch of points in a rivalry game, take the points. Take the points. So I don't think either of these games are competitive at the end. I just don't know that either side has enough to completely blow out and dominate the other. So I'll take Ohio State over Michigan, 27-10. I'll take Oregon over Washington, 30-13. They are good, solid wins. The fan bases collectively on both sides, in Eugene and in Columbus, which are part of the same conference now because, woohoo, yay. I guess they can take a sigh of relief. They can relax and go, okay, finally got that one out of the way. Finally got that win that we've been waiting for against the arch rival there. So Oregon and Ohio State, I suspect they will be fine. How about Iowa and Nebraska? Congratulations to Nebraska. They're going to play in a bowl game for the first time in 8 years. That's an emotional moment. Now they have to go on the road to Iowa in an emotional letdown spot. No thank you. Iowa 20, Nebraska 16. I think the Hawkeyes win this football game. This could even be lower scoring than that. Just be prepared for that. That neither one of these teams offensively, it's just there. It's offensively played. I don't know that it's going to be played particularly well. I think Iowa will just barely cover. They're favored by 3.5. How about teams with a lot of urgency? There are a trio of Big Ten teams that are trying to become bowl eligible this week. This week. 2 teams. 2 teams? 2 teams. Okay, 2 teams that are trying to become bowl eligible this very week. There's one in the Big 12. That's where my head was at. So anyway, the first one is Wisconsin. Wisconsin is at home, favored by a whole 1.5 against Minnesota. Minnesota's quietly playing good football. They almost beat Michigan. They almost beat Penn State last week. The fake punt heard around the world in Happy Valley. I tell you what, that was a gutsy performance by Minnesota. I think it took it out of them. So this game being played in Madison, I'll take the Badgers. I don't know that this is pretty. I think this game can come down. This is one of those, a team had a field goal blocked or missed a field goal or made a miscue or had a penalty that kept a drive alive and led to a touchdown. One of those plays is going to be the difference. I think these are fairly evenly matched teams. Wisconsin 27, Minnesota 24. I'll take the Badgers playing at Camp Randall. Illinois playing Northwestern this week. 7.5-point road favorite. Swallow it. I'm swallowing the points. Illinois with, oh my goodness, what a game it was last week. Because the Illini were down outdone, not going to win. And then all of a sudden, a Luke Altmaier miracle. How about that? But what's getting overlooked is Illinois is going for their 9th win of the year. Do you realize that if Illinois wins this game, their bowl game will be for a 10-win season? That's a big deal in Champaign. This is a great season for Brett Bielema and company, beating Michigan, a 9-win season on the table. They've got plenty to play for. Northwestern, on the other hand, can't even play for bowl eligibility. So give me the better team to win. I think Illinois wins big. I think they cover. 30-10. I like Illinois on both sides of the ball. I think they're significantly better than Northwestern. Speaking of significantly better, Penn State's hosting Maryland. Maryland not going bowling. That's unusual for Mike Loxley and company. Penn State, they're going to the playoff because they're going to win this game, go 11-1. That's the only thing that Maryland could be doing here, is potentially spoiling Penn State. But even at 10-2, Penn State's probably safe. So the perennial college football playoff bridesmaid is going to get in, and they are going to blow out Maryland. I think the upset potential for Penn State, that was last week. Now they're at home. Maryland's down, ready to just end the season. Penn State 38, Maryland 6. This looks like the Washington game from a couple of weeks ago. Michigan State is another one of those Big Ten teams playing for the right to go bowling. Oh, baby. What a first season that would be for Jonathan Smith and company. I believe the Spartans' preseason win total was 5.5, might have been 4.5, so it could be on the line in this game. They're playing Rutgers. This is a sub-field goal point spread. I'm going with the home team. I go with the home team in the Wisconsin-Minnesota game, going with Michigan State here. I feel confident. I'm going 1-1 at worst with those two picks. Michigan State making a bowl game in year one should send a message to the rest of the Big Ten that Jonathan Smith, he's ready. He's done this before. He's done this whole rebuild thing at a brand that isn't typically sitting on top of the conference every year. He's going to do well at Michigan State. And making a bowl game this year would be a great first season. Be a great first season for Jonathan Smith and that staff. 23-17, I will take them over the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers, who are already going bowling. Like Rutgers is already, you've already got your bowl game secured. Greg Schiano and company, who were unfortunately not, for them anyway, not able to navigate one of the easiest schedules in the Big Ten this year. But they're going to a bowl game, so it's not a disaster. Last week, though, boy, talk about a deflating loss. I think that can be it. Michigan State got a lot to play for there. And finally, UCLA. Vegas is so good. They're shockingly good. So their win total, UCLA's opened at 5.5 this year. And I said, whoa, hammer the under. Well, the under's going to hit. Then it moved down to 4.5. Do you know what the record is going into this game? It's 4-7 after losing to USC last week. Before the year, I would have said, I think Fresno State can beat UCLA. I'm picking UCLA to win this game. They're favored by 8 points. I think UCLA covers. I think Fresno State last week played well against Colorado State, but Tim Skipper's unit, they've been just okay. They're not bad. He's the interim head coach, interviewing head coach. Look at that, however you like. They're not a bad team, but they're not a great team. And UCLA is closer to a bad team than a great team. But over the last month or so, they've been kind of a good team. They were competitive with USC last week, couldn't quite get it done. I think Deshaun Foster takes some serious momentum into the offseason. And after a 7-win campaign, 8 with a bowl game last year with Chip Kelly, Deshaun Foster coming in and doing 5, with the recruiting potential I think he's got for that program based on some of the early season recruiting results. We'll see how the offseason goes for the Bruins, but I think he carries some momentum into the offseason. There's a lot of work to be done. A lot of work to be done for the Bruins, but Deshaun Foster, I had them as a 3-win team before the year. They're sitting at 4. I think they get to 5. And they win the game 34-20 over Fresno State. That's how every game in the Big Ten is playing out. No wrong scores are going to come to pass. Obviously, never had a wrong prediction in my life. So, the Big 12, it's chaos. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's the Joker level of absolute unbridled chaos. And Arizona State's going to the Big 12 championship game. Who's going to join them? We'll talk about that next. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel, and you can get ready to tackle the NFL action post-college football with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Do you want to go to the number 2, 3, or 4 sportsbook? I wouldn't. I'd want to go to the #1 sportsbook. That is why you should check out FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. It's all right there in the app, so when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're placing your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com, that's the place to go. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook sponsor of the NFL. Win, and they are in. Did you think we'd be saying that about Arizona State before the season? Well, lo and behold, here we are. That's Richie Bradshaw, Locked On Sun Devils, to join me. Richie, did you even think we'd be in this spot? I'm taking Arizona State to win the duel in the desert because I can't get behind Arizona doing anything right. I mean, they're even worse than I thought they would be, and I thought they'd be a 7-8 win team, and that was lower than most, and all of a sudden they've fallen off a cliff, and Arizona State a wagon right now.
Well, friendly reminder, Spencer, that I told you over the summer that ASU was going to beat U of A, and that's going to be the case.
You did.
As we'll talk soon about that. To answer your question, though, no, I did not see this from ASU. I said preseason I could see 7-5, and I thought that I was being a little optimistic about this team. I was hoping they would be able to push for a bowl game, but nobody, not even Locked On Sun Devils, saw this kind of performance coming from Arizona State. And yeah, they're just balling out right now. I know you talk about them a lot on the show. I talk about them a lot for good reason, though. It's a good football team that's got a very real chance to go to the college football playoff this year.
Well, we
just
talk
like
about them.
Predicted.
We talk about them for different reasons. I talk about them because they're becoming one of the stories of the year in college football. The title of your show is Locked On Sun Devils. So perhaps there are different motivations, but it's a good thing. It's a very
good thing.
It's a good thing, of course. So let's talk about this game. Arizona, I don't know who is playing quarterback for the Wildcats, but it's not Noah Fifita. There's some guy posing as a Noah Fifita imposter back there. But it's been...
the new Solomon?
I don't think he's even that good. It's more... I don't know. Help me out, Wildcat fans. There's just... I don't know. I thought it would be a rough transition for Brent Brennan. I didn't think it would be this rough. So... no. Arizona State gets upset in this spot if what happens?
If they go in complacent. ASU has a lot to play for in this game. There's a lot riding on it. It's a huge rivalry game. ASU has lost 2 in a row to U of A. They do not want to lose 3 straight. They have a Big 12 championship on the line, which could lead to a college football playoff appearance on the line. The last thing that ASU needs is to come in, assume that because Arizona is where they're at and they are not a bowl team or anything like that, that they can walk all over them. That's not the case. With these kind of rivalries, as you and I both know, toss out the record books. Like, ASU could be undefeated, U of A could have no wins. Of course, I'm going into the game confident, but that doesn't mean that ASU should be going in there assuming they're going to win, because U of A's, dude, what won't they do in this game? Fake field goals, fake punts, go for it on fourth, get some cute plays. Like, they're going to do all sorts of stuff.
You and I are on the same wavelength, because when I mentioned this game earlier this week on the show, I said the same thing. There's nothing to lose for Arizona here. There's everything to gain. There's Brent Brennan saving his perception in the eyes of boosters, alumni, fans, whoever is supporting Arizona. And certainly there are plenty of people who are watching and such, but I think Arizona State wins 34-17. They're just a better football team. They're just rolling. I will not pick even against the spread, a team that is playing as well as ASU right now. I would have had my ASU win BYU cover if they hadn't held on that 2-point conversion last week, but I'll forgive them for that. But 34-17, I think this is Arizona State all the way.
I also agree. This is definitely an Arizona State football game. There's just too much to play for this year. And for a Kenny Dillingham team that came into the year and said, yeah, we don't feel disrespected, they clearly have played like a disrespected football team. This is just another
Cam
game.
Scatterbo looks like he runs every single time as if someone just insulted his mother.
The people's running back, man. Like, he is what he is. Give me ASU big, but I do think U of A is going to hang some points in this game. I'll take ASU 42-27.
42-27. I respect it. Let's go elsewhere in the Big 12. Colorado is a 16.5-point favorite against Oklahoma State. Colorado has to win to keep their Big 12 title hopes alive. Oklahoma State is playing to end the season. Like, there's nothing on the line. There's no rivalry here. History between the teams, nothing. Colorado wins. Colorado covers 38-13 Buffs.
Yeah, there's no way Colorado drops this game. I understand that Oklahoma State has pride to play for, and they don't want to go winless in the Big 12. But, that's just kind of the hand you've been dealt. The way that you've played this year has led you to this point. I'm really sorry, but Colorado, same with ASU, they've got way too much to play for in this game. And after almost botching their chances to get to the Big 12 championship last week when they had their destiny in their control, they're going to be determined. They're going to be a really upset football team. I will also take Colorado big in this game. Let's go 35-14.
UCF hosting Utah. Preseason, my record prediction, none are going to be as far off as Utah. It's going to be my worst one because they can't keep a quarterback healthy. And they're on quarterback number, 6, 7, 8. I'm not being hyperbolic. I believe are literally...
Call me up.
Yeah, Richie is about to get the call. I mean, I'd get called up first. But you know what? I was a backup quarterback in 6th grade. So, which of us has got more playing experience? It's up for debate.
I hand the ball off really well.
UCF, that's debatable. UCF 20-13. I'll take Utah to cover with that defense. I think 10.5 is too many points. But, UCF going to win this game in a battle of bowl-less football teams.
This is just one of those games where you're watching it either because you're a Utah fan or a UCF fan or you're a sicko who put money on this thanks to our friends over at FanDuel.
Nice.
I don't think this is going to be a fun game to watch. I'm not going to lie, this might be the worst game left in the Big 12 this year. I'll take UCF because they're the home team. I'm not confident about it because I feel like Utah will probably come out swinging to end the year, and then potentially Kyle Whittingham's last game as the head coach of Utah. Give me the same. 2017 UCF.
I hadn't thought about that. That's an interesting thing to look at. Is this the last time Kyle Whittingham ever coached a game for Utah? We'll just have to wait around and find out.
Flip my team. Utah over UCF 20-17.
Okay, I'm sticking UCF. Utah's just not a good football team this year. That's just the way that it goes. It'd be the fewest wins ever since they made the jump up. I think since Kyle Whittingham has actually been there.
UCF is still a good team.
The fewest wins they ever had in the Pac-12 was 5. They could have 4 their first year in the Big 12, and a lot of Big 12 fans will love that. I refuse to pick against Kansas until they prove that they aren't going to be a bowl team. So they're playing Baylor this week, 30-27. This is going to be a fun game. This will be a really fun game. Kansas playing for a bowl. Baylor's playing for more momentum for Dave Aranda, who's already saved his job. But give me Kansas by field goal.
It's funny. You and Drake Toll gave yourselves a really hard time, Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12, about picking Kansas to win the Big 12.
This is what we saw. This is what they should have been all season. I don't know why it took this long.
Yep, I put it on my media poll that I had Kansas winning the whole thing. And now that they've figured out how to play football, suddenly they're a great football team. I understand it's a road game, like you said, until Kansas proves otherwise that they are a bad football team all again. I'm taking the Jayhawks. I take them pretty comfortably. What was your score?
30-27.
I was going to say, I feel like this could be high scoring. Let's go 31-24.
Not as high scoring as Texas Tech, West Virginia. When in doubt, take the over with the Red Raiders, 42-35. I think Texas Tech picks up win number 8 this year, not just because that was the exact record I predicted for them before the season.
That would be funny. Definitely seems like
wouldn't be the first time that happened, and I will just ignore all the other times that I've gotten teams wildly wrong, except for Utah. I'll point that one out.
Or Virginia Tech. West Virginia, Texas Tech. If the game is not in Lubbock, I might think West Virginia, especially because West Virginia is still kind of in the race.
There's a path.
Dude, it's super complicated at this point.
It is complicated, but it's still country
there.
Roads, take me home.
It's still there for like 8 teams, I'm pretty sure. I
believe disgusting. It's 8. It might be 9. It's either 8 or 9.
That's disgusting. But
it's awesome.
I am going to take Texas Tech at home. Definitely high scoring. Let's go 35-31.
Since he's playing to get bowl eligible, I think TCU is just better, though. I picked 2 Big Ten teams to win to get bowl eligible. I think Wisconsin will. I think Michigan State will. I do not believe Cincinnati will. 34-27, TCU wins.
Well, Cincinnati, they're not a bad team. They're not a great team. They're definitely playing for something, and they are the home team.
They're definitely one of the teams in the Big 12.
One of the teams in the Big 12 of all time. But like you said, TCU is better. And honestly, with the way that the season has gone for TCU, I feel like they want to close the regular season out on a high note going into whatever bowl game they get. I'll take TCU in this game. I'll take them by 2 possessions. Let's go 28-10.
Iowa State wins.
I guess.
I think Iowa State beats Kansas State. Really fascinating game. This is purely off of home field advantage. Iowa State's still alive for the Big 12 title game. They win, and they're in against Arizona State. Kansas State has to win. They need a bunch of other help, but hey, this is the chaos conference of the Big 12. So I'll take Iowa State to win and just barely cover 23-20. They're currently favored by 2.5. I think this is a coin flip, go either way game.
This is going to be an absolute slugfest. If you are looking for the best game in the Big 12 to watch, it's K-State, Iowa State. Not even just because they're both ranked.
It probably is.
This is just a good football game. But I agree with you. If this game is in Manhattan, the Little Apple, I might lean K-State, but it's in Ames. And Iowa State, with everything they have to play for, sorry to keep saying that over and over again, but
it matters. It matters, though.
With the last game of the year, absolutely.
Yeah, like Oklahoma State. What does Oklahoma State got to play for this week? They're not going to a bowl game. They could play spoiler for Colorado. What do they care about the Buffs? They just got reintroduced to the conference.
Exactly. I'm definitely going to take Iowa State at home. I think that's unlike the Utah UCF game where it's low scoring and it's ugly. This is going to be low scoring, but it's going to be a thrilling match to watch back and forth with 2 really good defenses. Give me Iowa State. I'll go 2017. I think that's what you took. I'm 2017.
I had 23-20, but same sort of deal. Speaking of teams that need to win and get help to make the Big 12 championship game, once unbeaten, but since losers of 2 straight, the BYU Cougars. Too many points, even though they're at home against Houston. 28-17, I've got BYU winning, but the spread's 13. I think Houston's a better football team than what Vegas might be giving them credit for there. So give me the Cougars to win. Give me Houston to cover. I don't think it's super tight, though, and BYU finishes with a 10-2 regular season.
If Houston went into this game 5-6, I would really like their chances to play spoiler. But they're not, and they don't have a chance to go bowling. BYU is very, very upset right now. You know, I've had no shortage in my mentions. I have seen no shortage on Twitter. I know they're really upset, and I would imagine that team is also really upset. There's no way they lose this game. Stop me if you've heard this before. They've got a lot to play for in this game.
Oh, man. Seems to be a
thought?
theme across the Big 12. His team's got as much as anybody. Richie Bradshaw, Locked On Sun Devils. He's on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts as well. Richie, enjoy it as always, my friend.
Enjoy it as always, and you know it's Duel in the Desert week, so I just got to remind everyone: it's Fall Down, Arizona, and Forks Up, Sun Devils.
Yeah, good luck in your fight.
Good luck in your fight.
Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.